me bring in two gentlemen here. The amount of money spent by outside groups in the 2012 election cycle was greater than the total outside spending in the last 11 election cycles combined. So will super PACs be even bigger players in the coming years or not? Bill Burton, he was head of, or is head, I guess still, of the pro-Obama super PAC, Priorities USA. Jonathan Coligio is the spokesman for the American Crossroads super PAC. You both are here. I have the mutual assured destruction opinion on here, where a super PAC that goes unresponded to is very effective. A super PAC that gets responded to, the two worlds collide and eventually mutually assured destruction. But I will start with you, Jonathan, because obviously you guys you spent more money and you potentially have more to telling donors that happened to the money.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what's missing from Isikoff's analysis. President Obama, over the course of the campaign, outspent Mitt Romney on television by $154 million from April through November. Senate Democrats, if you take away the two self-funders in Connecticut and Pennsylvania, outraised their Republican counterparts by $60 million. Not to mention the DSCC outraised the NRSC by another $20 million. So what Democrats did this election extremely effectively was leverage their incumbencies to have huge financial advantages over their Republican opponents. We believe that American Crossroads, by evening out the playing field, ended up keeping this what was essentially a two-point race at the end. I don't think...
So you think this would have been a blowout without Crossroads?
It absolutely could have. I mean, 345,000 votes separated Obama and Romney in the 4 swing states that decided this election. If there were not... I mean, if you're going to say that $150 million disparity by the president over Obama, if that couldn't have taken care of that, I mean, we really bounced out. I don't think you would have had a close election otherwise.
Bill Burton, if you... analyze his argument there. It seems like when you look at it on the money, that's a fair point.
Right, on the money. But if you look at the broader context of what this election was, going into it, the president had the highest unemployment of any incumbent seeking re-election since the Great Depression. The right track number was at 15% in October of last year, and I think a lot of people thought this was going to be a lot more like Jimmy Carter than it turned out to be. But let me also say something in Jonathan's defense here, because the one problem with Crossroads' effectiveness, I think, was that they were supporting a candidate who did not give a clear sense of what his message was or where he wanted to bring things. And so I think that, just for one example, on Bain, there was a story where Ed Gillespie said very specifically that they were going to respond to the ads. They were going to have people from Staples and Sports Authority saying how great it was that Bain came in and helped out their communities. So they probably read that in the newspaper like, oh, okay, we don't have to do that. But the Romney campaign never did it, and Romney never ended up getting the defense of his business sector experience.
All right, let me ask the larger question. Anything that happened in this election make either of you think that the future of the super PAC, that there will be big donors who say, you know what, well, how effective was it really? Do you feel as if donors are going to go to you and say, you know, we wrote you all this money and didn't win?
Look, our donors weren't just giving in August during the convention when things were going well, or October after the debate. We had a lot of donors giving in the doldrums of September that were giving in July. They knew that this was an uphill battle, and presidential elections are dramatically structured to favor the incumbent. I mean, you have Mitt Romney running against all these Republicans in the primary, emerges broke, and President Obama, who's raising all of this primary money, gets to unload on him for 4 months. I mean, structurally, you have to have some kind of organization that's going to be able to push.
And are you the mutually assured creation out of it, that if they didn't exist, would you guys have existed?
No, we definitely would not have. And, you know, if the Democrats listening to what Jonathan's saying here, I think there's cause to be very concerned about the capacity that Republicans will continue to have to raise money, because he's right. Even in the dark days for Mitt Romney, they were still raising tons and tons of cash. And so I think that going into the future, as long as there are super PACs and as long as the rules aren't changed, yes, we will be an answer.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan, because I think that's how you guys spent your money. Was it too much on TV advertising? Looking back, are you guys going to do an autopsy and say, you know what, should we have spent more money in different states? Should we should have been the job of the super PACs to expand the battleground map? What is it that you guys think you could have done different strategically? Forget the money.
Well, strategically, outside groups are going to be a little bit hamstrung with regard to any kind of get-out-the-vote efforts, right? I mean, we don't have a brand that translates in Columbus,
This is
Ohio.
always going to be television or direct mail. Or
yes, and the labor unions, which basically run turnout for the Democratic Party, we don't have that analog. It's run by the local Republican parties. So we can't go in and do a lot of, like, on-the-ground door knocking. We try had it in 2010. It was very, very difficult because we don't have the storefront and we don't have the brand. I mean, we did expand the map at the end. It obviously wasn't successful. I mean, I just don't know how we could have done it differently. If you look at the exit polls, the way that Obama won was on the ground in Cleveland with a lot of the minority voters. In Cleveland, Cuyahoga, and the rest of the state. I just don't know that that's a job for super PACs. We kind of have that done by the local
Do you
parties.
feel the same way that super PACs can't do this? They can't be ground efforts because they don't have a brand?
I don't think that they can be ground efforts. I think you have to leave that to the campaign, and Romney failed on that.
Or the parties.
Or the parties,
Yeah.
right. But I will say that the Republican side suffered in some ways from having too much money. And because there were all these groups, Crossroads may not have a brand, but each group can have one specific message that you keep driving and driving. And because they had Crossroads up one week, Restore up one week, AFP up one week, I think that the messages were sort of...
I've heard this critique, and I've always wondered that myself.
Except that the messages were more or less the same, all right? So Crossroads was coordinating with these other groups.
Because you could. That is legal.
That is legal, as long as we're not coordinating with the candidate or the party. But here's the thing. By the end of the campaign, people trusted Mitt Romney on issues of the economy. So we believe that our job was done. The glut of our ads was on jobs, the debt, and that sector of economic issues.
You guys focused on Mitt Romney. You guys never did focus on Mitt Romney. Why?
We focused on the record of President Obama. What we said was the failed economic record of
In hindsight?
I mean, it worked. It worked. What a super PAC can't do is push the candidate over the line. The candidate has to get his own positive as well. It's very, very difficult for a super PAC to do an effective positive ad. I mean, that's just kind of outside of what we can do.
All right. Well, I think you both sound like you're going to be fully employed. Bill Burton, Jonathan Colicchio. Thank you. These autopsies. We're going to try to do autopsies on this election, various things.